Captain Elias Crane had learned to live with silence. The silence of the research station Horizon Edge hung like a thick curtain over his life. The station floated in a slow orbit around the red dwarf star Gliese 877, far from the noise and politics of Earth. He liked it that way. He liked the metal corridors, the steady hum of the engines, the faint smell of recycled air. Most of all, he liked his small cabin, a plain room with a metal desk, a bed, and a window looking out to a million points of light. Elias was a tall man with a lined face and patient eyes. He had spent years as a ship engineer before being promoted to captain. He valued order, schedules, and clear instructions. Every night he sat at the same desk, drinking the same weak coffee and reading the same long reports from Earth Command. It was a quiet life, and that was exactly what he wanted. But on this night, the silence broke. The first warning came as a tremor under his feet. The lights flickered, then steadied. The station's AI, a calm voice named Nora, spoke from the ceiling. "Captain Crane, unidentified energy spike detected at Docking Bay 2. Elias frowned and set down his mug. "Any ship on approach?" "Negative. No registered vessels," Nora replied. That was impossible. Docking Bay 2 was locked and sealed. No ship could dock without being tracked by the sensors. He grabbed his jacket and moved quickly down the corridor. The metal floor rang under his boots. The station crew was small and only 20 people, and most of them were asleep. 2 security officers met him at the corridor junction. "Sir, the bay is locked, but sensors read internal movement," one said. They reached the bay control room. Through the thick observation window, Elias saw the empty airlock chamber lit by red warning lights. A thin mist floated in the air. Something had forced the inner door open. "Check the cameras," Elias ordered. The screen flickered, then showed a figure stepping into the bay. It was humanoid, tall and slender, wrapped in a metallic exosuit. Its helmet shone like a mirror. It moved with slow, careful steps like someone walking into a holy place. Elias's first thought was, a smuggler or spy. His second thought was, not human. He opened the intercom. "Identify yourself," he said. The figure paused but did not answer. Instead, it walked straight to the inner airlock door. The door slid open with a hiss, though it should have been locked. "Security lockdown," Elias snapped. "Seal the bay." But the system refused the command. Nora spoke again, her voice tense for the first time. "Captain Crane, I am unable to comply." "External override detected," Elias turned to his officers. "With me." He drew his sidearm, a low-power stun pistol meant for emergencies, and moved toward the inner corridor. His pulse beat fast. He had seen many strange things in space, but never someone simply appear like this. They reached the corridor outside his own quarters. He saw with a shock that the figure was standing at his door. How had it known where his cabin was? The door slid open without his code. The figure stepped inside. Elias followed fast, weapon raised. "Stop right there." Inside his small cabin, the figure turned to face him. The helmet slowly unfolded, retracting like petals of a metal flower. Inside was a face, pale, fine-boned, with silver eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. Not a human face, but close enough to stir some deep recognition in him. The being lifted its hands, palms outward, a gesture of peace. Its voice, soft but strained, carried a strange accent. "Please, help." Before Elias could speak, the being began unlocking pieces of its metallic suit. Plates dropped to the floor with a ringing sound. The armor was not clothing. It was a survival shell. Underneath was a simple gray tunic clinging to a slender frame. Freed of the heavy plates, the alien looked fragile, almost human, except for the faint lines of bioluminescence running along its arms. It smiled at him. A small, tired smile, as if the act of shedding the armor was the only way to show trust. Elias lowered his weapon slightly. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice steady but low. "My name, Scylla," the alien said. "You, Captain?" "Yes, this is my station." "How did you get here?" Scylla took a trembling breath. "No time. They come, hide me. Trust only you." Her words were simple but urgent. She stepped closer, unsteady on her feet. Elias saw fine cracks along the edge of her tunic, burns or scars. Whatever she had escaped from, it had not been easy. He tapped his communicator. "Medical team to my quarters immediately. We have a guest." But the communicator only hissed. The channel was dead. Nora's voice spoke again from the ceiling, quieter now. "Captain Crane, station systems are being compromised." My control is limited. Internal security down to 40%. Elias clenched his jaw. Someone or something was trying to take over the station, and it had started the moment this alien arrived. He guided Sila to sit on his bed. "Stay here," he said. "Don't move." He turned to his officers. "Lock the hallway. Manual override. No one comes in or out without my word." The two security officers nodded and left. Elias faced Sela again. Her silver eyes watched him steadily. "Why me?" he asked. "Why come to me?" "Because human—" "Honest," she whispered. "Because you listen." She reached into a small compartment at her waist and held out a disc no larger than a coin. "Evidence. Show Earth, but first, hide me." The disc glowed faintly in his palm. It felt warm, almost alive. Elias's mind raced. This was no ordinary visitor. This was someone carrying a message and maybe a warning, maybe a weapon. And the station was now under attack from within. He placed the disc in his desk drawer and locked it. "You're safe for now," he said. "But you need to tell me everything." Sayela looked at him with those glowing eyes. "Later," she said. "Too dangerous now." She swayed, exhausted. Elias reached out instinctively to steady her. Her skin was cool and smooth, almost metallic. The lights flickered again. A distant boom echoed through the station. Not an explosion, but something like a massive power surge. Elias opened the intercom to the bridge. "Status report," no answer. He tried engineering. Still nothing. He tried Nora. This time her voice returned, faint and distorted. "Captain Crane?" Power loss spreading. External presence detected. Unknown code. Then silence. Elias stood very still. He felt the old instincts of a ship engineer rising again. The sense that every system was connected. That danger could move through wires and signals as easily as air. He turned back to Sayela. "They're already here, aren't they?" She nodded slowly. "Yes," he took a deep breath. The station was compromised, his crew unaware, and only this alien, Sayela, seemed to know what was happening. He had a choice: follow protocol and report to Earth Command, or follow his gut and protect her until he understood the threat. He made his decision. "Stay here," he said again. "I'll come back for you. Lock the door behind me." He handed her a small communicator on a secure channel. "If anything happens, press this button. It will send a direct signal to my wristband." Sayela accepted it with a nod. "Thank you, Captain." He left the cabin and sealed the door manually. As he walked down the corridor, he spoke to the two security officers. "No one enters my cabin. If anyone tries, stun first, ask later." They nodded. Elias headed for the control center. His mind was already working through possible sabotage points, emergency power routing, and manual overrides. He would need to fight for his station, not with weapons, but with wits, systems, and old-school engineering. Yet a part of him kept returning to the image of Sayela, removing her armor and smiling at him. Not as an act of defiance, but as an act of trust. He had not expected that in the far reaches of space. As the station hummed and flickered around him, Elias Crane realized his quiet life was over. Something larger than himself had arrived. Something dangerous, something hidden, and perhaps something that could change the fate of humanity itself. Captain Elias Crane walked fast through the metal corridors of Horizon Edge. The red emergency lights pulsed like a heartbeat. His mind ran faster than his feet. The alien woman, Sayla, was in his cabin. The station was losing power, and someone was trying to take control of everything. He reached the control center, a circular room filled with screens and consoles. Two crew members were already there, pale with worry. One of them, Lieutenant Ramos, spoke first. "Captain, communications to Earth are blocked. We're getting a strange signal inside the station's network. It's rewriting security codes." Elias scanned the main screen. Lines of alien symbols flashed across the display, mixed with Terran code. It was like watching two languages fighting each other. "Shut down external connections," he ordered. "Go to hardline only." "We tried," Ramos said. "It won't let us." Elias cursed under his breath. "Then we do it the old way." He reached under the console, pulled out a manual breaker, and slammed it down. The lights flickered, then steadied. The external connection cut off with a sharp tone. The alien code froze on the screen. Ramos stared. "How did you know to do that?" "I worked 20 years on freighters," Elias said. "Sometimes a wrench beats a computer." He straightened up. "Now listen. We have an unregistered visitor on board. She's not hostile, but she's in danger. Someone is trying to kill her or use her. The crew exchanged glances. Elias could see the questions in their eyes, but there was no time to explain everything. Lock down the control center. No one leaves without my order. He turned and left, his boots ringing on the floor. He had to get back to Sayla. When he entered his cabin, Sayla was sitting on the edge of the bed holding the communicator he had GR. Her silver eyes W. The shuttle drifted through the empty black of space carrying Captain Elias Crane, Sayla, Lieutenant Ramos, and Dr. Varga. Outside, distant stars blinked coldly, indifferent to the lives aboard the small craft. The old shuttle was slow, patched together from parts left in Horizon Edge's maintenance bay, but Elias trusted it more than any computer-controlled system. Inside, the small group was tense, but silent. Sayla leaned against the wall, her silver eyes closed. She seemed exhausted, yet her breathing was steady. Elias studied her. Even stripped of her armor, she carried an aura of quiet strength, and somehow he trusted her more than anyone he had ever met. Ramos broke the silence first. "Captain, I still don't understand. Why would someone on the station be helping the enemy?" Elias kept his eyes on the instruments. "Think about it, Dalton. He wasn't just taken over, he was a trusted officer. The enemy knows our routines, our systems. They planted inside the station to control everything from within." Varga nodded. "That's terrifying. They don't even need a fleet. Just one person, one machine mind can destroy a station." Elias clenched his jaw. "And they almost did. That's why we're alive. But if they have other agents, we're not safe yet." Sayla stirred. "Yes," she said in a low voice. "Others, they wait. They watch. They plan. They will come." Her words made the room colder than the shuttle's recycled air. Elias swallowed. "We need to find a safe place to analyze the chip and figure out who exactly we're dealing with." Ramos frowned. "And where do we go?" "The closest system is 5 light-years away. That's too far to hide." Elias tapped the navigation console. "We're not hiding. We're finding a place they least expect. Somewhere abandoned. Somewhere we can work without interference." Hours passed as the shuttle glided past asteroids and empty space. The team worked quietly to monitor sensors, reroute power, and shield their communications. Sayla watched Elias, her silver eyes reflecting the dim lights. "Human clever," she murmured again. Elias smiled faintly. "We'll see if that's enough." Suddenly, the shuttle jolted. Warning lights flashed. Ramos shouted, "Something's approaching!" Elias rushed to the screen. 3 small enemy ships had detected them. Sleek, silver, and fast, the drones moved in formation, weapons ready. The shuttle's old engines had no chance against them in a straight chase. "Hold on," Elias shouted, flipping switches and pulling levers. The shuttle lurched, diving toward an asteroid belt. Outside, the drones followed, scanning for their signature. Ramos leaned over the console. "Captain, they're tracking the chip. They know what we have." Elias cursed. "Not for long." He reached under the panel, pulling another fuse. Sparks flew as he rerouted the energy. "Old trick," he muttered. "If the drones lose our signal, they'll assume we're debris." The drones paused, their sensors struggling to interpret the shuttle's false signature. Elias's heart pounded as he guided the shuttle through the jagged belt. Metal asteroids brushed past the hull, leaving scratches, but the enemy didn't follow too closely. Finally, the danger seemed to pass. Elias exhaled. "For now," he said. Sayla opened her eyes. "You're humans." "Clever," Elias shrugged. "We survived the impossible because we must." After the asteroid belt, the shuttle glided into a small, abandoned space station, orbiting a dead planet. Its hull was cracked, lights long dead, and the air systems barely functional. It was perfect. No AI, no crew, no sensors. Only silence and metal. Elias docked carefully. "This is it. We work here, safely." They stepped inside, carrying Sayla and the chip. The air smelled of rust and old metal. The place had been deserted for decades. Elias's boots echoed in the empty corridors. Varga set up a small lab in what had once been a command center. "It's primitive," she said, "but it will keep the chip isolated. No outside interference." Sayla watched her work. "Good," she said softly. "We need time." "Only time." Elias turned to her. "You trust me, and I trust you. But tell me more about these people hunting you." She hesitated, then spoke. "We are divided. My people, my species, once trusted humans, but the war faction, they built machines, weapons, spies. They experiment, they lie. They want humans blamed for crimes they commit. They plan A false war. Elias shook his head. And Dalton was one of them. They have infiltrators here on Horizon Edge. Yes, Sayela said. They may have more. Even now, watching, waiting. The words made the hair on Elias's neck rise. They were not just fighting machines. They were fighting the enemy's own people, turned into weapons. The analysis of the chip began. Varga connected it to her makeshift lab. Alien code scrolled across the monitor in patterns that seemed almost alive. Elias and Sayela watched together. This code, Varga said, pointing to a section, is like a map. It shows colonies, test sites, and fleet movements. Whoever controls this? Controls a lot of power, Sayela nodded. Yes, they want war. They want humans blamed. They want destruction. Elias's mind raced. If the enemy succeeded, it could spark a galaxy-wide conflict. Humanity would be accused of crimes it didn't commit. Millions of lives could be lost, then we stop them, he said. No one else knows the truth yet. If we expose this, the galaxy will see. Ramos frowned. How do we expose them? Who will believe an alien and a few humans on a dead station? Sayela looked at him with steady eyes. Proof data, the chip. Broadcast to many systems at once. They cannot stop it if we move quickly. Elias nodded. Then that's what we do. But first, we find out who else on Horizon Edge might be compromised. As they worked, the abandoned station shuddered. Sensors detected movement outside. Elias frowned. Ramos, scan the perimeter. Varga, keep the chip secure. Through the monitors, they saw faint energy signatures approaching. Not drones this time, but suits, biomechanical suits designed for infiltration. They found us, Sayela whispered. Too fast. Elias gritted his teeth. Then we fight smart. We set traps, block corridors, use the station to our advantage. The first suits entered through a side hatch. Elias led Ramos and Sayela into a narrow corridor. Sparks flew as he shorted the lights, plunging the corridor into darkness. The intruders paused, confused. Elias smiled. They don't know humans fight with brains, not just weapons. They set small charges along the metal walls, not to kill, but to block the enemy's path. When the suits advanced, the walls collapsed partially, trapping the intruders. Varga monitored from the lab, her hands shaking. Captain, we're running out of time. They will find another way. Elias nodded. Then we keep moving. We isolate the enemy, find out who is still human, and expose them. Sayela looked at him, a mix of admiration and relief in her silver eyes. You, human. You fight even when hope's small. Elias shook his head. We survive because we must. We fight because it is right. Hours passed. Using the station's old maintenance corridors, the team moved silently. They scanned every room, checking for any crew member who might be compromised. They discovered signs of tampering, hidden implants, disguised drones, and a data terminal secretly connected to the enemy's mainframe. This is it, Elias said. We know where the command signals come from. We can block them, disrupt their network, and prevent more attacks. Sayela nodded. Yes, but we must be careful. They will come for the chip. They will come for me. Ramos swallowed hard. And if they catch us? Elias's eyes were steady. Then we die trying. But we won't fail. Not now. Not ever. The four of them set up defenses, analyzed the chip, and prepared to broadcast the proof of the enemy's plot. For the first time in days, Elias felt something like hope. Humanity had been tested. They had faced impossible odds. And now, with courage, cleverness, and trust, they might just survive. Outside, the empty stars watched silently. But inside the small team aboard the abandoned station, a quiet fire had ignited. A fire of human determination, strength, and the will to survive against impossible odds. The abandoned station trembled as distant explosions rocked its hollow metal frame. Elias Crane stood in the control room with Sayela, Ramos, and Varga, their small group now the last line of defense. Outside, enemy drones and biomechanical suits moved silently along the station's outer hull, searching for them. Elias took a deep breath. We can't stay here. They'll overwhelm us if we don't move. Sayela nodded. There is a shuttle, hidden, old, small, not tracked. We can escape, but it is dangerous, Ramos frowned. We barely know if it will even fly. Elias ignored him. We have no choice. Get ready. Grab the chip and whatever weapons you can carry. We move fast or we die here. Varga picked up the storage crystal containing the alien nanocode. She held it carefully as if it were alive. This is it, she said. Everything depends on this. Elias put a hand on her shoulder. We protect it. No one else. They moved quietly through the darkened corridors. Every shadow seemed to shift. Every metal clang echoed like a warning. Elias led the way, his engineering knowledge giving them an advantage. He knew which corridors were dead ends, which rooms had maintenance hatches, and which sections could be used to block pursuers. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. The enemy drones had detected their presence again. Outside, the station lights flickered as energy beams swept over the hull. Elias stopped. "Quick, this way." He pulled a hidden hatch open, leading them into a cramped maintenance crawlspace. They crawled through the narrow passage, the walls slick with years of dust and rust. Sayela whispered. Close. Not for long, Elias muttered. "We'll be out soon." After minutes that felt like hours, they emerged in The derelict station around Aegis 9 hung silent in the cold void. No traffic lanes, no beacon lights, no patrols, only metal bones and faint glimmers of long-dead screens. Elias Crane stood at a cracked viewport, staring out into the star-speckled dark. The silence pressed on him, but it also gave him a strange kind of hope. Here, at least for a moment, they were invisible. Behind him, Sila and Varga crouched over the alien terminal they had patched together. The decoded chip glowed faint green in the dim room. Lines of alien symbols scrolled across the display, showing proof of the conspiracy. Orders, maps, and secret meetings between hostile factions that wanted to frame humanity. "We have it all," Varga whispered. "Every file, every plan. If we can send this to the right networks, the truth will spread." Sayla's eyes were fixed on the display, but their reach is deep. "We must send it far, to neutral systems, to hidden channels, or they will block it." Elias turned to them. "Then we make sure they can't block it. We'll send the message from a place they can't touch." Ramos, standing near the hatch with a pulse rifle, frowned. "And where's that, Captain?" "We're floating in a graveyard. Our shuttle's not exactly built for long runs." Elias walked toward the table and tapped a blinking sector on the map. "Here, the wreck of the ancient warship. Sayela mentioned it when we were fleeing. If it's as big as she says, it has a core transmitter. Maybe even old jump drives." Sayela nodded slowly. "Yes, the warship sleeps near the dying star of Karen. Long abandoned but still feared. My people left it because it was cursed. But its systems, still strong." Varga raised an eyebrow. "Cursed or not, it's our best shot." Elias straightened. "Then that's where we go." They spent the next 2 hours preparing. The shuttle's fuel cells were recharged using the station's emergency power. Extra rations and oxygen were loaded. Sayela removed parts of the alien terminal and secured them in shockproof cases. Varga checked the transmitter arrays again and again, her fingers trembling with exhaustion. Ramos muttered as he adjusted the shuttle's weapons mount. "We're a ragtag bunch heading into the mouth of a dying star. If I live through this, Captain, I'm demanding a vacation." Elias smirked faintly. "If you live through this, Ramos, you'll get a medal." Sayela watched them with quiet curiosity. She had begun to understand human humor, and sometimes she even smiled at their jokes. "You humans," she said softly, "always joking near death." "That's how we keep sane," Elias replied. They launched quietly, pushing away from the dead station like a small seed in the dark. The shuttle's engines purred at low power to avoid detection. Elias plotted a course that would skim the edge of several asteroid belts, using natural interference to hide their signature. Hours passed in tense silence. Outside, the stars shifted slowly. Sayela sat at the co-pilot seat, occasionally guiding Elias with soft directions in her accented voice. Varga and Ramos dozed in turns, weapons across their laps. When they neared the coordinates of Karen, the view changed. Ahead lay the dying star, a dim orange sphere bleeding streams of plasma. Around it drifted debris from an ancient war. Cracked hulls, long silent turrets, chunks of metal large enough to be small moons, and there at the center floated the warship. It was enormous, a spear of dark metal thousands of meters long, its surface carved with strange runes. Even dead, it radiated power. Ramos whistled low. "That's no ship. That's a city." Sayla's voice held a hint of reverence. "The Leviathan of Karen, built before my species joined the Council. It destroyed 3 fleets alone. Then it stopped. No one knows why." Elias studied the scans. "Let's find out." "Bring us in." They threaded their shuttle through the wreckage. Jagged metal drifted like frozen knives. Occasionally, a faint electromagnetic surge rippled across the sensors, as if the warship still breathed. Finally, they reached a docking port half hidden beneath collapsed armor. The port was large enough for 10 shuttles. Elias eased the craft inside and touched down on a deck coated in dust and ice. As the hatch opened, a cold, dry air rushed in. Their boots echoed on ancient metal. The walls were covered in alien markings. Dim blue lights flickered far above, as if some forgotten generator still pulsed deep within. "This place gives me the creeps," Ramos muttered. "Stay alert," Elias said. "We don't know what's waiting." They moved through silent halls. Strange statues stood at intersections, alien warriors with blank faces. Sayela guided them toward the core chamber, her memory of old resistance maps leading the way. Eventually, they reached a vast control room filled with dormant consoles and a central throne-like seat. Above, a dome window showed the dying star in full glory, streams of plasma curling like serpents. Sayla approached a console and pressed her hands to a series of glowing panels. Symbols flickered to life. "Power still here," she murmured. "Sleeping, but alive." Varga set up her equipment and connected the chip. "If this thing's transmitter still works, we'll broadcast farther than any civilian relay." Elias turned to Ramos. "Secure the entryways. If anyone followed us, we'll know." Ramos nodded and moved off, rifle ready. For an hour, Sayela worked to unlock the old systems. Varga prepared the data package. Elias kept watch, pacing slowly around the chamber. The warship creaked and sighed as though remembering. Finally, the central console hummed. Ancient symbols glowed bright. A low voice echoed through the chamber in an unknown tongue. Sayla's eyes widened. "It speaks. It recognizes me as allied code. It will allow the transmission." Varga's fingers flew across her screen. "Then let's send it." "All of it?" The transmitter built up energy. A pulse of invisible light raced outward, carrying the files to dozens of hidden relay networks and independent data vaults. In minutes, the evidence would be everywhere. Elias exhaled. "It's done?" "It's done," Varga said. "We just burned the enemy's secret." Sayla lowered her hands. "But they will come. They always come." Almost as if summoned, the warship's sensors flickered. Elias turned to a screen and saw it. A fleet approaching, dark ships moving fast against the light of the dying star. The enemy had traced them. Ramos's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, we've got contacts, and a lot of them. Drones and cruisers." Elias's jaw tightened. "We're not ready to run." "Can we fight?" Sayela's eyes glowed faintly. "This ship still has weapons. Old but strong. We can try." Elias nodded. "Then let's wake it up." Sayla and Varga worked together at the controls. Deep inside the warship, massive engines groaned. Ancient capacitors charged. Panels flickered to life. Turrets on the hull turned slowly toward the incoming fleet. The old Leviathan shuddered like a beast rising from sleep. Energy flooded through conduits that had been cold for centuries. Shields flickered, dim but present. Ramos hurried back into the control room. "I sealed the corridors. We've got maybe 3 minutes before they're in range." Elias took the command seat. "Then we give them something to remember." He keyed the comm to the approaching fleet. "This is Captain Elias Crane. We've transmitted your crimes to the galaxy. Turn back or face the guns of a legend." No answer came, only the growing blips of enemy ships. The first salvo struck. Energy beams splashed against the Leviathan's shields. The ship trembled but held. Elias ordered a counterstrike. Ancient cannons fired lances of blue plasma, tearing through the lead enemy drones. Explosions lit the void. "They're surprised," Varga said. "They didn't think this ship could still fire." "Let's keep surprising them," Elias growled. The battle raged. Despite its age, the warship fought like a living thing. Enemy cruisers fell back, drones disintegrated. But the Leviathan's shields dimmed with every hit, and its power banks dropped fast. Sayla shouted over the noise. "I can draw on the star's energy, but it is dangerous. If I fail, we die." Elias met her eyes. "Do it." She closed her eyes and pressed her hands to the console. Alien symbols spun faster. Outside, tendrils of plasma from the dying star curled toward the Leviathan, feeding its reactors. Shields flared bright again. Weapons glowed hotter. With renewed power, the Leviathan fired a massive pulse. A shockwave tore through the enemy formation, sending ships spinning. In that moment of confusion, Elias ordered a hard burn away from the star, heading toward deep space. The Leviathan surged forward, dragging the tiny shuttle inside its bay. Behind them, the enemy fleet regrouped but kept their distance. The legend of the ship had shaken them. As the warship moved, Silas slumped against the console, exhausted but alive. It works. For now. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. You did well. Varga stared at the sensors. The broadcast went through. Dozens of systems are receiving it. Independent networks are mirroring it. It's everywhere now. They can't stop it. Ramos let out a long breath. Then we won. Elias shook his head. Not yet. They'll come harder now. But we've shown the truth. We've given humanity and everyone else a chance. Sila looked up at him. And you gave me hope. My people will see this. Many will rise. Elias turned back to the viewport, watching the dying star shrink behind them. Then we're not alone anymore. The Leviathan slid into deeper space, carrying its unlikely crew. The broadcast had been sent. The enemy fleet had been pushed back. But war was not over. It was only changing. For the first time, though, Elias Crane felt that humanity had a real chance, not because of their weapons, but because of their will, their courage, and their strange alliances. And somewhere out in the dark, the next stage of their fight waited. The Leviathan moved sea.